It blows my mind because I think so many women feel like they don't have options, like they have to be a part of these groups just to get the business knowledge or whatever that they need, because there's not a lot of options out there for Christians specifically. But I really was just convicted of like ladies, you do not have to hire people who are like saying the F word all the time, you know?
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Called Women Show. I am your host, Natasha Miller. And today, ladies, I have a conversation that I am so excited to share with you. We have an amazing woman of God. Her name is Ashley Jim. She is a seven-figure business coach. She has her MBA. She's a homeschool mom and a ski/surf lover. And you can see her surfboard in the back, I think, of her camera there. She's been doing that since 2018. She's been helping wild and radiant women who are coaches, course creators, ministry leaders, and business owners launch and scale Holy Spirit-led businesses to consistent $10,000 to $50,000 months online using biblically based approaches. Her heart is to eliminate calling burnout by disrupting typical ministry and poor stewardship, and instead monetizing your God-given anointing, passions, and skills for greater holistic impact. Together with her team, she's building generational wealth, strong family legacies, and designing lives full of true physical, financial, and spiritual freedom, and all while having life. Ladies, help me welcome Ashley Jude to the podcast. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, I'm glad to be here today.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely love being able to read your bio because I believe that it perfectly encapsulates all that you are and all that you represent. And like I mentioned earlier, it really is an honor to have you here because I've been personally following you for the last year. I was introduced to you through my friend. And the moment I went onto your website, onto your social media accounts, I could just feel the presence of God. And I knew that you were a business owner, CEO, who really had a heart for God and a heart for women. So I would love for you to just quickly share even more about you.
Yeah. Well, I guess kind of as mentioned, I am a business coach.
Mhm.
I grew up in Colorado, born and raised. That's where I am currently, even though I still love surfing. I want to like spend my other part of my life in Costa Rica. But yeah, I grew up with parents who were small business owners. My dad owned an auto body shop growing up, and then really just kind of like instilled a great work ethic in us kids. And from there just kind of landed into business. And it's funny because when I was in college, I like couldn't decide on a major, and my dad was like, I'm not going to pay for you to basically go get like a degree in social work. You should go do business. And I was like, but business is boring. But your parents like sometimes know you better than you know yourself. And so I landed on business, loved it, and then honestly never looked back. I was in corporate for a little while, quickly got out of that. It was just not a good experience. I feel like the Lord just really had something different in mind for me. Owned a photography business for 6 years, had little babies throughout those years, and then started my coaching business in 2018 with three kiddos, 4 and under, including a newborn. So
Wow, what a beautiful journey, and that the Lord has had you on this in these past years. And I could see also just by listening to you that you grew up with having that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in your home. And so, with you going to college, you also had your MBA and you briefly mentioned that you were in corporate. So what was that disparity that you saw with working in corporate and then also kind of sensing that the Lord was also wanting to shift you into building your own business?
yeah. So I remember during those years, I went into corporate because I was like, I just paid for this MBA. I'm not going to go start a business with it because you do it to kind of climb the corporate ladder, I guess you could say. And anyway, so I finished my MBA. I got married about a month after that. I was only 24, and we moved to Nashville. My husband was rehabbing houses in Nashville. Spent a year there, didn't really know like what I was supposed to do, was applying to some jobs, but nothing was really like hitting. And I ended up applying to some jobs back in Colorado because we had talked about moving back to Breckenridge, Colorado, which is where we met. And I got a job as a banking officer at a local, like a Colorado bank. And anyways, it was a really fun job for the first maybe 8 months. I got promoted into like a higher position. And I learned so much. Like, it was such a cool experience. And then 8 months in, I had a woman who basically came in as my mentor. And I quickly was versed in the world of, honestly, just cattiness in the workplace. And I think she just sort of had it out for me because I had my own mind. And I remember feeling like physically sick, going to work each day, praying that the Lord would just like give me strength to walk through it. I had never worked so hard like at that point in my life. I mean, I was so young. I was, 26 by that point, but I'd never worked so hard in my life just to be felt so thrown away. And so I actually got fired from that position. And I should have quit. I think it was one of those things where like the Lord was kind of telling me like, this is obviously not working out. The workplace politics, the gossip, the drama. I mean, there was a lot of drinking and a lot of like, it's crazy. Those corporate places, it's just so like, it's kind of like the pit of hell, honestly. And, I should have quit, but I like am such a like tough it out, like hard work, and then the Lord released me, so I got fired. And I had been starting to build some photography skills within that time, just kind of as a hobbyist. And I ended up, right after getting fired, about 3 days later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a photography business. I am never going to work for someone ever again. It was kind of like I call it my Scarlett O'Hara moment of I will never go hungry again. Like, I am never going to go back to corporate ever again. Because once again, I had never worked so hard for something and been so thrown away. And I was so young. That was such like a sad, like heartbreaking, experience. And that just really like lit that fire of like, I was not made for that world. Like, I'm a builder, a creator. And I just was not built for that. So, and then another funny thing is in my early 20s, like when I was walking through my MBA program after finishing my undergrad, I remember the Lord putting it on my heart that like someday I want to write books and speak and some of those different things. But if I was thinking about my perfect dream job, I was like, I want to teach business at a college. And it's so funny because I have created my own university where I teach business. And so it's just all the pieces came together.
And it's so interesting when we look back at the conversations that we had with God. And initially, when we make those comments, we think it's going to happen 2 years, 3 years from that moment. But there is a process that's always waiting for us on the other side, right? To help refine us and prepare us for that divine moment. So I love how you shared your journey of understanding and seeing, okay, I don't want to feel this way. And also recognizing that who you were and what God had called you to do. And you said a really key word there that you realized that you were called to build, you were called to create. And I think that especially as a business owner, those are the specific gifts, talents, and anointings that you need to be able to build your own ecosystem. But that's what you've done. You built your own ecosystem and place for women to come and to find themselves just the way that you did. So when did you know that the Lord was calling you to build your life coaching program? When did you know that you were called specifically to women who were in the coaching space?
Yeah. So it's funny because I feel like a lot of these like transitions are like layered with heartbreak to some extent. It's like God walks you through a heartbreak and then it like opens the door for what is next. And in So in 2017, I was starting to feel called to getting out of my photography business. I was starting to feel just the burnout and, had gone through pregnancies and was like shooting weddings, 36 weeks pregnant and like going and working postpartum. And, it was just, I don't know. I was kind of tired of like having to go in and out of the house, always managing the schedules with the little kids. And I also felt like my income was like getting capped because I had to work more to make more money. And I have always been like, I want to like make money without like maximizing my time. Like I want to work so smart because that's how you build wealth and that's how you build like generationally. You don't trade your time for dollars. And so I saw this opportunity in the online world. So in 2017, I started to kind of like think about, I think I want to do something like that. But then I didn't really have a solid idea of what that looked like. And so in 2018, like I laid it down for a while, just ideas. In 2018, I was, 7, 8 months pregnant with our third that summer and was just feeling like burnout with clients. Had to walk through just some hard client situations. If you work with a lot of clients, uh, I would say like 95% are great, but there's like 5% who sometimes make you want to quit and are like, they take their wrath out on you for whatever reasons. But I just experienced like a season of like, I am so over this. Like, I am made for so much more. Like, this is like beneath me, the problems that I am experiencing right now. And I was just tired. Like, I think I just wanted to go back to that mode of creating and that mode of like doing something that had a deeper meaning. And I felt like I had gotten so capped by what I was able to do in the local business world and then also the photography industry. And so, literally 9 months pregnant, decided to close my photography business, close the door on that, and just pretty much commit that I was going to step into the coaching world. And so I remember like doing these, like creating a little Facebook group 9 months pregnant, doing some videos in there to my local community. I invited some of my local community in because I had built relationships with local photographers. Brought them into this little Facebook group and pretty much said, hey, like I'm going to be closing my business and I am looking for some clients to basically teach how I built my photography business. And that was my main program for the first 2 years of being online. And I ended up signing like $20,000 worth of clients from that, which was amazing. And a lot of it was like sowing those previous relationships, throughout the years, just showing up and being like an industry leader. And then started building online. 2019 officially launched online versus in person and tried out all the things, email marketing, launch models, just all the things. Didn't really see momentum until like real, just solid momentum until the fall of 2020 after the world went crazy. And the key piece here is that I started getting very vocal about my values and beliefs. And honestly, I was like, I just felt like the world was so blind. And I'm like, how do people not see what is going on right now? I started speaking up about that, got super attacked, cancel culture online, dealt with all of that. So they're like another heartbreak, walked through something in my family that was like the most devastating thing I had personally ever been in. And then went, repackaged my first program, launched it in the fall of 2020 as like a group coaching program, really was targeting women who just shared very faith-based values and beliefs, as well as like tended to be very conservative politically. And launched my program and brought in $85,000 of students inside of that. But it was after like kind of like completely laying down my idea of like, well, don't mix faith and business, don't, and so it was a crazy, like so much breaking, but like the fear of man broke off of me and it just launched me. And so in 2021, I launched the Selah Collective, which is now the business coaching program for coaches, course creators, ministry leaders. And that's going strong. But that was the catalyst of what truly, shifted in that season.
Hi, friends. Okay, I know right now you are tuning into today's episode and it's so good, but I wanted to pop in here to let you know that there is a free
coaching DNA quiz that is made available to you. Have you ever thought about going into life coaching and you don't really know what type of coach you would actually be? Well, the Called Women team has created a DNA quiz to help you discover your coaching DNA style. You can simply go to www.calledwomen.com/a DNA quiz, put in your information, answer a few questions, and your results are going to be sent into your inbox. You guys, check it out.
It's so yeah, I didn't know like the backstory of everything that you just shared because it all makes sense, right? From fall of 2020. And even just you having to go through people misunderstanding you, people not respecting what you were saying, right? Because yeah, I completely can understand what you were sharing because I'm sure I share those same beliefs as well, right? But I believe that even now in 2024 that there is another pivot that's happening to where there are new voices who are emerging again to where God is kind of shaking things up to see who's going to stand out. Because I think just even as an influencer, as a ministry leader, as I'm a coach, right? It's easy to just kind of follow the trends. And even just as Christian leaders, right? We are even following the trends of the world, right? To where we all are sounding the same, we're all agreeing on the same thing. But even me personally, I've been more introspective of like, okay, yes, I'm at the forefront and people see me a certain way, but what is that thing that I'm building that is out of this quick obedience? It's not out of, okay, here's what's expected of me, but it's something that is going to challenge me, not just publicly, but spiritually, and all that kind of stuff. So hearing you talk through that is beginning to reawaken things in me, and I'm sure even for some of our listeners, because usually when we lean into that radical obedience is when this radical reward is able to be birthed. Mhm. Yeah, so I would love for you to share because you mentioned the Selah Collective, even just you sharing how you've expanded your business coaching to basically any type of woman who is leading in some sphere of influence. So I'm sure you have women who have multiple kids, women who have maybe been in corporate and now they're owning their own business. So how like, are you able to bring us into some of your business coaching calls? Because I'm sure there is a common denominator or some common things that you're seeing when you are coaching these women at their business.
Yeah, so I think that it's interesting because when you market and you really share like your values, your beliefs, like you kind of start with that core, we're on the same page. And you notice that a lot of us women who are honestly living like more counterculturally, we have this similarity, and then business is another thread that you put into the mix. And so what I love is, I I didn't want to stay in the photography industry forever. I was kind of tired of it when I started, but I also felt like the Lord was really putting it on my heart that like that is where I needed to start, because I needed to kind of graduate to the next level before I could step into what I really wanted to do, which is more of what I'm doing today, teaching multiple businesses, like multiple industries, because I have, coaches who are in all different spaces in the health, wealth, relationships, spaces or industries, whatever you want to call it, niches, or and but truly it's like having the core values be the same, and then the like external values of like I have tons of homeschool moms. It's actually funny because my student retreats, we realized that literally like probably like 90% of the moms there were homeschool moms, which is so funny. And lots of new homeschool moms. This is only my second year, so I'm newer into it. A lot of families have just like pivoted into that because they have just felt this like call to like connect to like the heart of their family that way. And I've also noticed a lot of people who are like doing it for ministry. Like I have a client who she's made over 6 figures working with us, and she got to go to Ghana to like go serve and like, pay for her missions in Ghana because her business has been successful. And yeah, I mean, it's really cool just to see the different reasons why, the different backgrounds, lifestyles, but they really just come up with the core um, thread of just wanting to change the culture, whether it's their family or business or ministry, like in some way, but there's like a cultural element, like that's also like a common thread in there.
Yeah, no, I love that. And even just you using the term countercultural to where just like the Lord was already using you in that space before you achieved, the success that you have right now is you had to go through that process, right? Of being this like, how did you process that? I mean, when you were literally just, being obedient to what you sense the Lord was having you say, how did you work through the hateful words, judgments, people canceling you? What helped to anchor you during?
Well, I feel like I'm more mature now, like after kind of walking through it and like better at handling it, like my skin is thicker and I think you just get better. You're kind of like what I'm going to show up in the fight for. 2020, I think I was like I'm going to go fight. I was like fight, fight, fight. And so there's probably some ways that I could have handled some of that season more gracefully, you know?
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's such a fine balance between like fighting and standing up versus like creating like too much fight. You know what I mean? It's like standing firm versus like continuing to get sucked in. That's actually been a big theme that I've been thinking about recently when it comes to these hard things that we walk through. It's like, how do I like stand firm but not get sucked in? Because the Bible talks about, I can't remember the exact verse, but I'm horrible at quoting things. But essentially, like if you kind of get into like a fight with a fool, like you kind of get sucked into that
yeah,
foolery or into that folly. And I think during that season, there are some things that I definitely would change going back. But I think because I've been through so much of that, like I'm getting so much better at handling those hard situations. And that doesn't mean that I'm never rocked or bothered, and that's because I care, it's like it would be strange if something never bothered you. But I think it's like really trying to rise above and not get sucked in and know that we have a choice to like not get sucked in and we can stand firm. Like we don't have to change people's opinions. We can stand firm and we don't have to like necessarily fight back and forth because that's not going to change
yeah.
opinions anyway.
Yeah, that's really good wisdom because a lot of it, and I think that's just even in scripture, right? Like all you can do is stand, just continue to stand and letting the Lord really fight our battles because really we are called to be his mouthpiece. He's not asking us to fight people literally, right? And he's like, you release the word, I'm going to send your protection, be strong and be courageous. So even just hearing you talk and hearing more about your journey, that I could really see that the Lord really has called you to be set apart, that you are a CEO founder that is set apart truly for his kingdom to raise up women who are kingdom women who are countercultural in the different spheres of influence that they're in. So how has it been? I mean, because I am a part of your email list, and there was an email that you sent out about a month or so ago about a program that you have purchased, like a training, and you had your team tune into that training, and you were kind of just you didn't feel peace, like listening to the video. There were some words that were said that did not align with your faith. And you sent out an email about that and shared that journey. So even when I got that email, I was like, yes, like this woman, she's just not out here just, because I got a lot of programs too. And I'd be like, wait, what is this? I paid what? What? And even though you see the success of someone who has built what you built, or maybe they are ahead of you in a certain way, reading your emails and hearing you speak on that showed me that their influence or their impact or their way should not be controlling and compromising your personal convictions. So I'd love for you to kind of share on that because I'm sure even with that, right, you had to make the decision to be a standard, not just for you and your team, but also for the women who were following.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I felt so bad because I had purchased a program and it was like a really great program, but you don't know what the training is going to sound like until you get in there. And it was a program, it was actually kind of more of like a bro marketing program, but I purchased a lot of things because I'm always trying to stay ahead on the business things. And the information was so good, but I was having one of our interns watch, like, kind of run through the program, so I didn't have to watch all the pieces. And she was taking notes about how we could basically implement some of the systems in our business. And and she was like, "I'm sorry, I can't keep listening to this. Like, he keeps saying the F word." And I just didn't know, you know. And so had I known that the language had been so, you know, but I
Yeah.
felt like really bad about it. And I continue, like, it's funny because whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh, like I you know,
Yeah.
because I don't want to put someone else in that position where, like, that's something that they have to be a part of. But last month we actually launched our mastermind. So we have the Selah Collective, which is like, you know, for clients who are in like the 0 to launch phase. Maybe they get up to their first 10 to 20,000 or something in that program as a coach. But then we have our new program, which is Eden, the mastermind. And that's for women who have made, you know, 20 to 100K plus. Like, they're actually in the game, like they're doing the thing, they're making money. It's not just coming up with this thing that they haven't actually put out into the world and like had success selling yet, you know. And anyway, I was really just kind of thinking about the different things that some of the women are experiencing who are at a more advanced stage of business. And the concept of like just people dropping the F bomb in our programs is so huge. And I've heard just similar things. Like, I had a friend who joined a mastermind, and this woman was like F word dropping all the time. And I went to listen to her podcast and I listened to like 3 minutes and I was like, oh, no matter how good her stuff is, I just can't continue to listen to this. And it blows my mind because I think so many women feel like they don't have options, like they have to be a part of these groups just to get the business knowledge or whatever that they need, because there's not a lot of options out there for Christians specifically. But I really was just convicted of like ladies, you do not have to hire people who are like saying the F word all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean you always have to like hire a Christian necessarily, but there is something about like if you're going to work closely from someone and like take ideas and implement like business strategies, don't you want to make sure that you are working with someone who is at least like trying to like walk
Yeah.
with Christ, you know? And we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, but I just feel like so many women just go for these options that are not where God like wants them. And that doesn't even mean come into my programs, but like there is so much better stuff out there, you know?
Yeah. And it's true because we don't have to sacrifice those things. And I think that it's just, even just having here on the podcast and even with women that I bring on the show, is being able to show women that there are, you know, different alternatives, right? Because it can seem like through social media and media that here is the pathway to success. Here is the pathway to building a successful business, when in actuality, that is not the only way. And it's like, you don't have to build a business and lose your soul. You don't have to build a business and walk away from, you know, your belief system. And it is true. If you're listening to something over and over again and you're consuming it and you're wanting to create your life around that, it's going to become a part of who you are, and it will slowly uh, begin to integrate into your life. So I love how you are creating community through the Eden Mastermind, through the Selah Collective, to where if you are a woman who is just starting out, you have your certification, you're in ministry, and you want to launch something, you have a space for that. And if you are a woman who's been in the industry for a long time and you need community, you have the Eden Mastermind. So I love, again, like going back to again of this interview, you're building your own ecosystem. And I think that that is really, it's so kingdom. You know, I think we are supposed to be the trailblazers. We are supposed to be the pioneers. You know, we're supposed to be safe places that are, you know, curating places for women to be able to grow in their gifts and to bring reformation. And so I love that, actually. And I would love to just even before we end this conversation, like I mentioned earlier, before we started recording, is that you just exude so much peace, right? And I know that it hasn't always been that way, and that you may not feel peaceful every day because there's a lot of things that you manage as a wife, a mother, a business owner. But I would love for you to share with me and our audience, what are some rhythms or practices that you put in place daily to help you manage the call of God on your life?
Yeah. Man, that's hard because I am I'm like, I think one of the reasons why I love entrepreneurship is because I'm not a super like habit driven person necessarily. And so I kind of don't like having a schedule. I like freedom in my days, like, you know. So I feel like things are hit and miss, but I do feel like, I mean, I feel like I'm like constantly just like praying with like to the Lord, like whenever I'm just walking through certain emotions. Like if I start to notice, oh, like my nervous system is feeling kind of dysregulated, or this is intense, or I'm really like fired up about, you know, a situation that's happening internally or externally, like that, I'll just kind of take that moment and just try to release it to the Lord and just pray, you know, Lord, can you just help, you know, work me through these feelings? This is how I feel. You know, can you meet me right here and help me work through this? And so I feel like with the Lord, like it's honestly just like lots of conversation throughout the day, you know. I think I could definitely be more diligent in like my quiet time and whatnot. And I feel like I go through stages. I'm not an early morning person. And so, you know, it's when I start the day, it's like I hit the ground running like with the kids, and a lot of that is my ministry at the moment, you know, like being with the kids. But this year is kind of cool because so we started homeschooling last year. And so that was like kind of starting to learn the rhythms and all of that with just that structure, because it was the first time that I was like educating them, and learned so much. This year, they're in enrichment programs on Mondays and Fridays. And so that actually gives me time to myself, which I have never had, like all three kids on the same schedule. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, you know, we're really working on just having just solid homeschool days, focusing on the house, focusing on kind of all the internal things, you know. But I'm a big fan of time blocking, batching things, and honestly just kind of continuing to like chug away at things, you know, from start to finish, while just kind of keeping the Lord in the day today, you know. And if I need rest sometimes, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go rest. Or if I need to go fill my mind with peace with a podcast and just like listen to, you know, other women or men, you know, just teaching his word, then I'll do that. But it's kind of being maybe in tune with the moment, um, of what I need. So
No, I love the answer because it's real. Because I think people want a formula. It's like I do this at this time, and some people may call that formula, but I know I have three honors, and I'm pregnant with our fourth. So, and I told you, uh, our kids are in a new model now where they go to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they're home Tuesday, Thursday. So I'm responsible for their education, which that could feel like, oh my gosh, like this week I printed off the lesson plans. And I'm like, ew, it's like a full day of work, right? So I had to like re-encourage myself each week, right, that we're doing the right thing. But it is stretching me, and I'm seeing the fruit of it through, you know, our children and all that kind of stuff. But I think you have to be flexible. I think that was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn in motherhood. And I learned that early on because my first two are only a year apart. So I would get upset when they wouldn't nap at the same time, or they would skip a nap, or I would have a day planned and it would just be, it would suck today, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh. And I had to learn quickly that I can't allow those moments to affect my joy or to determine my outlook. So I just loved how you shared about having conversations with the Lord every day, like moment by moment, and giving yourself permission to rest. You know, when that comes to mind, to read that book, because there's times too where I have books that I want to read, they're on my nightstand. And I'm like, I can't do that. I got to do this first. And I'm like, you know, my friends are like, girl, you need to chill. Like, right now, even with this pregnancy, it's like, I knew that the Lord is calling me into this rest, but it's like, okay, Lord, how do I do that daily with everything that I have? But even hearing you share that, hey, every day looks different. And being able to be an entrepreneur and have the flexibility is a gift to where you can kind of, you can create your image. So I absolutely love that answer. And my last question for you, which came to mind when you were sharing, was Can you share on the importance of finding your people? Because I feel like you have become an expert when it comes to creating communities for women who may have felt rejected from other communities in the past. So can you just share on that? What is the importance of finding your people?
Oh man, I think it is. I think it's so important. I think that it is one of the most fulfilling things as well. I mean, so many of my clients have become such good friends throughout the years. Like I just feel like I have found my women, and it's so interesting because I love that the online world is so big. I struggle to find those women locally because like the best ones are like in different places. You know what I mean? Like the whole like the world is so big, and so um, but finding your people is so huge. And I remember, so when I was in the photography industry, I wasn't like a faith-based photographer. Like I, put like a Bible verse on my website, but it wasn't something that was like integrated into the day-to-day. And so I actively ran a business that was not faith-based. And the first 2 years, of my coaching business roughly were like not faith-based. It was in 2020 where I really was like, this is the direction that I'm going. And it was so empty, and it was so interesting because when life got hard and things came up, I had people turn on me who didn't share those beliefs and values. And just kind of like looking back, I felt so convicted because I feel like the last years have been sort of like wilderness, God kind of like stripping and like replacing. But I realized that I had sown so deeply in like places that were not where I was called to sow, and I had spent a lot of time with unbelievers. And even though I grew up in a Christian home, it was like kind of normalized to be like just spending times with unbelievers. And so, not that we don't want to like just outcast people or that sort of thing, but when it's kind of like the whole like, um, uh, what's that word? Throwing your pearls to swine. And I don't want to say that in a mean way or in a bad way, but like it's like when the best part of you, like people don't really understand that. That's such an empty place and like way to live. And so when I started really being transparent about what I believed and how I felt, I knew that there were other women, like you said, who had walked through maybe rejection for that they didn't really have a home. And I created, those places not only when I was in my photography programs, but in the Selah Collective. I built a table and I built a place that I wanted to be a part of because it didn't exist. And so that's been a consistent theme. Like I build things that like don't exist for like women who are like looking for that home. And I build it because that's what I so craved and like wanted. And so I feel like it's so funny when God kind of puts that on your heart to go build something that you're desiring. And because sometimes we want to go find it, we want someone else to build it for us. But I think often we are called to build what we are desiring in that way.
That's so beautiful. That was so beautifully said, actually. Yes. And I believe that that was just even a charge to women who are listening, because it's easy to kind of fall into sadness about not seeing what you so desperately need. Or so you really challenged us to seek the Lord and say, okay, if I, being rejected in these spaces, Lord, how are you wanting me to counteract this? Because if I'm feeling this way, there has to be other women who may be feeling this same way. It just, you either giving us permission to ask those questions and to take that route, because what you're sharing, you didn't create these tables from a place of anger or bitterness, or you want to get back at somebody. It was very much from this place of God. I want to be able to be a light to others, and I want other women to experience what I've experienced. So this is a great way to end, because here in the Calling community, we believe that every woman has a unique, special call, whether it's in the business world, whether it's in their home, in whatever sphere of influence, it matters to God. And our job is to be good stewards of that. So actually, I would love for you to share with our audience, how can the listeners stay in contact with you? There's some amazing, giveaways, and you're offering a 3-day mini course that's absolutely free for our listeners. All that information is going to be in the show notes. And I would encourage you guys to check it out, because um, it's a 3-day mini course, y'all, where she's on camera sharing all types of good stuff for free. So I want to encourage you guys to sign up for that. And then actually, Pete, I would love for you to share anything else about it and stay in contact with you.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, Ashley June Co. Instagram is not my life though, however. I'm active on there, but like I don't feel the need to be on it 24 hours a day, and I often take sabbaticals. But yes, I'm on Instagram. I do have a Facebook group, the Set Apart Coaches or Set Apart Women Coaches group. The mini course is amazing. It's called the Women of Valor mini course. And it's basically a breakdown of like, you're stepping into leadership, you know, who do you want to be if you're stepping into this world of launching or scaling that online business, you know? And so it's a great breakdown. I've gotten lots of great feedback on it. The ladies really, really love it. And it's going to call you up to that higher place of stepping into, you know, what the Lord has called you to do. And so I would say those are the main places. Oh, and I do have a podcast, the She's Wild and Radiant podcast, but we're transitioning the name to Eden because I feel like I stepped out of like that, I don't know, like that wilderness season, and I'm in like the paradise season right now. And so doing some changes on that, but you can also find that on Apple and Spotify.
Yes, I love the name. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, Eden Mastermind. And also her website information will be linked in the description box below because her website's gorgeous. It makes you feel very at home with what she's sharing. And so yes, you guys stay in contact, follow what she's building. She is a sister in Christ that is answering her call fearlessly, and we want to support one another. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm excited for you. I'm cheering for you. I believe in what God has called you to steward and manage. And yes, I'm so grateful that we've had this conversation. So friends, please let us know in the comments, how was today's conversation? What stood out to you? There were so many amazing nuggets of wisdom that was shared. Let us know in the comments, how are you going to be brave? How are you going to step out and begin to build what God has called you to build? Because we believe that when you step out in radical obedience, you're creating spaces that are going to transform women from the inside out. So thank you, ladies, for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next episode.